They said I would never amount to anything. Today, I am everything they never imagined. My name is Bernardo. I'm 27 years old, and until recently I thought being ignored and belittled by my own family was normal. I grew up being told I was the less talented, the difficult child, while my older brother Leonardo was practically placed on a pedestal. At the time everything happened, I was working 2 jobs, slaving away from Sunday to Sunday, trying to scrape together enough money to achieve a modicum of independence. Meanwhile, Leonardo, already 30, was living off my parents without working or studying and was still treated like the pride of the family. I felt it was my duty to carry everything on my shoulders, even though it was slowly killing me. For a long time, my life was an exhausting routine. I woke up early, worked all day, helped around the house, and still had to listen to my own mother joke that I'd never measure up to my brother. It was as if every effort I made meant nothing. At first, I thought it was a phase, that I just needed to prove my worth and one day they'd recognize it. But time passed, and I only saw Leonardo being rewarded for doing nothing, while I was treated like a servant. My savings disappeared in forced loans. I was forced to help Leonardo with his own debts, and everything was seen as a younger brother's obligation. I remember the turning point perfectly. It was a Sunday afternoon when my mother walked into my room without knocking, threw the electricity bill on my bed and said with the utmost nerve, "You're the one paying. Your brother has enough problems to deal with." That day, I looked around and realized how I was living like a prisoner in my own home. I had more responsibilities than rights, more demands than recognition. I felt a huge weight on my chest, and a mixture of anger and frustration washed over me. I didn't want to spend my entire life serving people who never saw me as valuable. From that moment on, my mind began to work differently. I began to observe every situation with new eyes. Every dinner was a competition about who Leonardo had cheated on or what lie he'd told our parents. And I noticed how everyone laughed and found it funny, while I was always accused of being hard-hearted for not accepting his apologies. My father treated me like his substitute for everything. I was the one who solved everything from car problems to favors for distant relatives. No one ever asked if I wanted or could, they just told me to. The saddest thing is that I accepted this for so long, thinking that being a good son was all it took. I won't lie. There was a time when I almost convinced myself this was my destiny. I cried alone in the bathroom, hidden, because I couldn't show weakness at home. I was physically and emotionally exhausted. My body was constantly on alert. I was constantly anxious, and I felt useless and trapped. Sometimes I thought about giving up, disappearing without a trace. But I knew that the way I was, I would never find peace. No one would come and save me, no one would recognize me. The only person who could change that was me. And as difficult as it was, I had to do something. The first step was to start hiding money. I switched bank accounts, cut up the cards my mother had access to, and started saying no more often, even though I was yelled at and blackmailed. It was a daily challenge to maintain my sanity, because with each no, I said, the atmosphere at home worsened, but I knew it was a necessary evil. When I realized they were starting to feel uncomfortable with my move, I had confirmation. I was never loved there. I was used, and I no longer wanted to be the family's emotional and financial crutch. The definitive turning point was when I discovered that Leonardo was using my name to take out hidden loans. I received a call from a bank demanding payment of an absurd debt I had never incurred. When I confronted my mother, she simply said, "He needed it, Bernardo. You're strong, you can handle it." At that moment, something inside me broke. I felt so disgusted by the situation that I started packing my bags that same day. I didn't ask permission, I didn't argue. I left. I grabbed my clothes, some documents, and went to the house of a friend who took me in without question. At first, it was scary. I didn't have my own home. I had no security whatsoever, only my wounded dignity and an overwhelming desire to never live in prison again. But every day I woke up outside that house, I felt lighter. I started looking for better jobs, started studying in my free time, and began to see new opportunities. The biggest struggle was within myself, overcoming the fear of failure, overcoming the feelings of guilt my family had instilled in me for years. But over time, I began to rebuild myself. I began to see my own worth, understanding that I deserve respect and that family isn't synonymous with exploitation. For the first few months, I still had nightmares about my old house. I dreamed of arguments, demands, and the feeling of being useless. But each morning was a fresh start. The feeling of freedom was strange at first, because I was so used to living for others that I had to relearn how to take care of myself. I learned to cook, to organize my bills, to create a routine where I was a priority. And little by little, that faded version of myself was left behind. I felt the weight lifting off my shoulders, one day at a time. I didn't have anything luxurious. I slept on a simple mattress on the floor, shared an apartment with 2 roommates, and ate a lot of ramen noodles at first. But the peace I felt was something no amount of money could buy. For the first time in my life, I could listen to my own thoughts without being interrupted by demands. I could go out whenever I wanted, laugh, rest, plan for the future without anyone looking down on me. And it was there, in the simplicity of the little I had, that I found myself. I discovered that living free was better than any luxury bought with humiliation. When I settled down, I got a better job at a company where I was recognized for my efforts from day one. For the first time, I heard someone say, "Congratulations, Bernardo, you're competent." And those words echoed in my head for weeks because I'd never heard them from my family. It was at this job that I learned the importance of healthy environments. It wasn't just about money, it was about dignity. Respect gave me the strength to grow, pursue qualifications, and improve every aspect of my life. After a year away from that house, I had my own rented apartment, my own hard-earned car, and my peace of mind was intact. My mother tried calling me several times, always with the same line, "Your brother needs help. Come home. You're the one responsible for the family." But I had already gotten over that manipulation. I didn't answer anymore. I was no longer anyone's emotional or financial repository. And when I started to distance myself, I also noticed how much I'd evolved as a person, calmer, more confident, with rebuilt self-esteem. The hardest part was understanding that I didn't need to carry the guilt they placed on me. For a long time, I thought I was being selfish. But then I understood that loving yourself is the greatest form of respect anyone can have. I learned to say no without remorse, to prioritize my mental health, to seek true friendships, and above all, to not accept crumbs from anyone, not even my family. This was liberating. I didn't have to sacrifice my happiness to support people who never valued me. I told this whole story because I know many people experience what I did, trapped in toxic family dynamics, thinking they should accept everything in the name of family. I was conditioned to think this way for years, and I almost lost my youth trying to please those who never truly saw me. But I want people to understand that there is no greater victory than achieving your freedom, your peace, your dignity. It's worth far more than any empty approval from those who only know how to exploit. Every day I feel proud of the person I'm becoming. I'm not perfect. I have my flaws, my insecurities. But today I fight for myself, for my goals, for my dreams. No one manipulates or holds me back anymore. I rose again, alone, starting from scratch with a lot of heartache, but also with a strong desire to succeed. And if there's one thing I've learned on this journey, it's that when we free ourselves from toxic bonds, life truly begins to blossom. Today, I look in the mirror and finally like what I see. I see a hard-working, honest guy who's learned to set boundaries, who knows how to say no, who's built his life through his own efforts. My life isn't perfect, but it's mine, and I choose every step I take without needing anyone's approval. And if you, reading this, feel trapped in something similar, know that there is a way out. It may be difficult, painful, but it's possible. You deserve more. I deserved more. And thanks to my courage in taking that first step, I've rediscovered the person I always was, but whom others tried to erase. Over time, I've also learned to choose who I want in my life. There's no longer any obligation or forced ties. I've decided to only keep close those who respect me, support me, and do me good. I realize that family isn't just blood ties, but also those who push you to grow. I've made new friends and met incredible people who supported me when I needed it most, without demanding anything in return. These new bonds were crucial for me to rebuild my confidence and feel like I belong in a place where I'm accepted for who I am. One of the most symbolic moments of my turning point was when I bought my first piece of furniture with my own money. It was a simple table, but I cried when it arrived at the apartment. It seemed silly, but it was a symbol of everything I was achieving. No one had paid for it. No one could throw it in my face later. That table was mine alone. It was then that I realized the value of every small step I'd taken since leaving home. I learned to celebrate my small victories because each one was the result of a huge struggle to escape an environment that was destroying me. I never accepted my mother's calls again. Leonardo continues to live off them, continues to accumulate debts, and every now and then I receive messages from relatives calling me ungrateful. But today I simply ignore them, because I know the truth. I fought, I tried hard, and I was always the most loyal in that house. And yet, I was the most disrespected. I'm not obligated to maintain contact with those who hurt me just because society says family is everything. My sanity is worth more than any false obligation. I started investing in myself. I took courses, changed careers, and evolved professionally. Each new achievement reminded me of the boy who was once called a loser at home. With each step forward, I proved to myself that I was never the problem. The problem was the toxic environment that tried to convince me I was worthless. Today, I earn more than I ever imagined possible, travel whenever I want, and make a point of taking care of my physical and mental health. I've learned that true success is living in peace with yourself. I know that not everyone has the privilege of leaving easily, and that each case is unique. But I am living proof that it is possible to break the cycle, even starting from scratch. I had no inheritance, no support, no one helping me. I only had my will to not sink along with that house, and it was this will that gave me strength in the darkest moments. Freedom didn't come as a gift. It came from my effort, my choices, and above all, my courage to say enough. Today, looking back on everything I've been through, I can proudly say it was worth it. It was worth every tear, every sleepless night, every uncertainty. Because the life I have now is built by me, for me. And the greatest lesson is, no one deserves to live in an environment that diminishes them, that drains them, that makes them feel less than they are. The first step is always the hardest, but after that, the road opens up. I am free. I am the master of my own story. And I am finally happy, not for what I have, but for what I have become. If I could give one piece of advice to anyone reading this, it would be choose yourself. Choose your peace, your mental health, your freedom. Don't accept living in the name of a love that only exists in theory. We deserve to be truly loved, and when that doesn't happen at home, we have every right to seek happiness elsewhere. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Family is who respects you, who values you, who wants to see you well. We learn to leave the rest behind, and if I can say I'm happy today, it's because I had the courage to change my story. I could have stayed there, being a second-class child, being exploited until the end, but I chose to live. I chose to rebuild myself, discover myself, respect myself, and maybe you need to make that choice too. I'm not special. I just decided I didn't deserve to live a mediocre life to satisfy ungrateful people. If I could do it, you can too. And the feeling of freedom is the best thing there is. I promise.